Hello guys, welcome to my YouTube channel Learn to Code with Noob. So in my last video, this is part 5 of the video in Typescript series. So in my last video I explained you about different other types in TypeScript, which are null, undefined, and the different collection types, which are arrays, enums, right? So I also gave you the explanation regarding tuples or tuples, how they are actually used. So if you haven't watched that video, please do watch that video. I will have the link of that video in the description below. Alright, so let's jump down to the other concept in TypeScript, which is the concept of any in TypeScript. So if you are using any type in TypeScript, most of the time it is wrong or you shouldn't use it. So what do I actually mean by any type? So for example, you have a variable a, right? You can actually define a type of variable a as any. And then what you can do is, then you can actually initialize this variable with a string. You can actually initialize this variable with a number. You can initialize it as a boolean value, and you can call a method on it too, like a string variable. So you can do all sort of things when you define a variable of type any. So now the question is, why there is a need of any type in TypeScript. Now there is a good explanation of that. So for example, if you have a code in JavaScript, right, or if you have a third party library which is totally written in JavaScript and you don't know while calling the method, right? So you are calling a method of that third party library and you don't know what is the type that method is going to return or something, and you just want to print a value. So for example, so what I mean by that is, so for example, let a is of type any and a is equal to, I am calling like some third party method, right? So if I'm calling some third party method, let me just declare a function which is named as that. So some third party method, right? So this is some third party method which I don't know what type it is returning, and I am basically like, you imagine this code is in JavaScript and you are calling this method, right? And you don't know what type it is, and the only thing which you want to do is, for example, you just want to basically print out the value on the console, right? So this is a good use case or a small example in which you want to define a variable which is of type any, and then you can log the value, right? So this is an easy way to do it. So for some people who don't know how we do this thing in JavaScript is, in JavaScript you can actually do this, like you can define a variable, right? Or maybe you can do let over here, and you can define a variable and you can call a method over here. So JavaScript doesn't care right now that this variable is of type number, right? You can basically call a method on it, and when you will actually run this JavaScript code, right, then only at runtime it will say that, hey, this is not a function at object this, right? Because this is obviously a number and you don't have two uppercase on a number. So in JavaScript you can easily do this, and that is what the benefit of TypeScript is. So the TypeScript, you can actually define like actual concrete types on a variable. Alright, so now I have explained the role of type any. Now moving forward, we can actually there is actually a very good other type to actually deal with this kind of stuff, is the type unknown. So what is unknown type? So unknown type is basically a TypeScript. We are telling TypeScript that, hey TypeScript, I don't know the type of this variable at line number this, right? So if, for example, I am calling, so let's say I just remove this, and over here I am calling a method to uppercase, right? So over here if I call this method, now TypeScript actually complains over here, because because over here we had said that this variable is of type unknown and TypeScript doesn't know the type of it. So how do we tell TypeScript that this is of type string, let's say? So in order to tell TypeScript that this is of type string, we have to do a type assertion. So this is a type assertion. So if I'll do a as string, now TypeScript knows that, hey, okay, on line number 4, if I'll call this method, then a is of type string, right? But for some reason you say, okay, on line number 4 actually this a is of type number, then TypeScript will actually work for you and it will say, okay, if this is of type number, then you can't call this method because this method doesn't exist the type of number, right? So this is how unknown works. So I would always recommend to use unknown, because then you actually get the help of TypeScript compiler. So it actually helps you if you are accessing some wrong method or you are initializing it with a wrong value or something like that, then it actually helps you to determine what sort of methods you can call on that. And the other thing is, what happens if I define this as any? Now this actually is wrong, because you are actually explicitly telling TypeScript compiler that, hey, I actually don't know the type on this line of this variable. So it's basically saying that I don't know the type of this variable, but I'm still calling this method, which is like code smell right over here, which is wrong. Alright, so moving on to the next topic, which is type inference in TypeScript. So type inference works same as any other as in any other language. So for example, in Kotlin there is a type inference, so it kind of works the same as in TypeScript. So what do I actually mean by type inference? So for example, I want to declare a variable, let's say a, and I want to declare a variable, and obviously whenever I am declaring a variable, I am defining a type with it. So you can always declare a variable of type string like this in TypeScript. But what type inference means is, so for example, I declared a variable a, right, and I initialized it with some value, right? Now if I want to put this value, TypeScript complains about it, but you just notice that I haven't like told TypeScript that this variable a is of type string. I just initialized it with a string variable, right? I initialized it with an empty string value. So this is type inference. So it is basically inferring the type of this variable based on the value I actually gave it on the initialization. So suppose I give a value like true over here, then this will work, because now by the magic of type inference, TypeScript knows that this variable is of type boolean, right? And if I do it as a number, then it will, sorry, not a number, 1, then it will again complain, because now the type of this variable a is number. Thanks for watching, guys. If you like this video, please don't forget to click on the like button. If you don't like this video, please mention why in the comment down below. Like, share and subscribe. Keep learning.